According to the canonical text of Genesis, humanity's firstborn son commits its first murder. As punishment for killing his brother Abel, God condemns Cain to the land of Nod, sentencing him to be a solitary, restless wanderer upon the earth. Yet, just a few verses later, the narrative deviates. The man just sentenced to a life of roaming is suddenly described as having a wife and actively laying the foundations of a city called Enoch. Before his exile, Cain tells God, "Whoever finds me will kill me." If the world is only occupied by Adam, Eve, and Cain, this fear of a nameless, violent population appears to have no target. The book of Genesis provides no immediate explanation for where Cain's wife originated, who these potential attackers were, or which laborers were available to populate a new city. Navigating this requires analyzing the lineage and timelines mentioned in the margins of the text, alongside records that the canonical Bible leaves out. Reconciling these contradictions is the only way to understand how the human species actually survived its first fragile generations to establish a functioning society. Genesis chapter 5, verse 4 provides a vital detail. Adam lived for 930 years, and during that time, he had other sons and daughters. Within a 900-year lifespan, the scale of human reproduction becomes a matter of exponential math. This branching tree shows how a single pair multiplies into hundreds of descendants across dozens of overlapping generations, creating a viable breeding population in a relatively short period. To populate the Earth from a single point of origin, marriage between close relatives, siblings and nieces, was a biological requirement to meet the mandate of expansion. While modern inbreeding causes severe genetic complications, the first generations lacked the accumulated mutations that drive these defects today. The specific laws forbidding these unions would only appear thousands of years later, once the global population had reached a sufficient level of diversity. This early close relative marriage was the specific survival mechanism that prevented the human race from reaching an evolutionary dead end. To find the names missing from the Genesis narrative, we look to the Book of Jubilees. Also known as Little Genesis, this ancient text provides the specific genealogical details the main canon omits. The Book of Jubilees identifies the women who made this expansion possible, naming Awan as the relative who joined Cain as his wife. The text also records another sister, Azura, who married Adam's third son, Seth, to continue the primary lineage. By identifying these silent figures, the record of human origins moves from a story of a few men into a documented account of a growing, interdependent society. In the land of Nod, Cain's behavior shifted. The man who was ordered to wander began, instead, to settle. Together, Cain and Awan established Enoch, the very first permanent urban center in human history, named to honor their son. By erecting stone and mortar, Cain neutralized the specific conditions of his exile. This construction served as a physical rejection of his sentence to wander, allowing him to establish a kingdom where he was no longer a fugitive, but a founder. While historical focus often rests on the builders and their architecture, the actual population of these cities relied on the biological endurance and resilience of the women living within them. The transition from scattered exiles to a structured urban society was built on the uncredited labor and survival of humanity's hidden matriarchs.